on the Newman Jets Audio Network. This is the Jetcast, the official podcast of Newman University Athletics, featuring exclusive interviews with coaches, players, administrators, and more. The Jetcast podcast is brought to you by Ascension Via Christi, Donlinger Construction, Mel Hambledon Ford, Eck Agency, Dr. Brennan Lucas and Advanced Orthopedic Associates, Keystone Solid Surfaces, Big Corner Creative, Pepsi, and by iCryo Recovery and Wellness. Here's the voice of the Newman Jets, Blake Cripps.
It is a new era of cheer and dance at Newman University as the Jet Spirit Squad headed up to Fort Hays State for some competition last month and brought home some hardware. Brandy Muncy is in her 9th year at NU and joins us here to talk all about it, this new era of Newman cheer and dance. Coach, thanks so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, this is something that I know that you guys have talked about for a while, but I want to go back to 9 seasons ago when you first started here. You came in, and I'm sure that it was our dear friend Vic Trilly that brought you into the fold here to kind of, I guess, uplift and kind of upgrade what we had in terms of spirit. What do you remember walking in, meeting your team, coming on campus for the first time when you first accepted the job?
Well, it was both teams, both cheer and dance, and my background is dance, so it was different on that aspect.
Sure.
Becoming a college cheer coach, making sure, like, stunting with the team and making sure, okay, you're going to be a base, you're going to be a flyer. Okay, well, you guys don't match up height, so we're going to have to put you with this group. And, like,
Sure.
Getting all that situated was eye-opening. But when I came in, the cheer team, I think there were 20, so it wasn't a bad size.
Sure.
Dance was a little scarce.
Sure.
So we had to have more tryouts when I came in, trying to find new people, and then just building that technique.
And you guys had, I know that you guys had a bunch of numbers here in terms of what you saw, and we've talked about this many times, and, it's no disrespect to anybody who came before because we appreciate everybody who's ever put on the Navy and Red, but the quality that you've been able to upgrade, and the ladies have come in, Bernie and I have talked about it several times. I mean, what you guys are doing now versus what you were doing the first years when we were starting to do radio, I mean, it's just night and day difference. What's that process been like as you kind of leveled up, cheer and dance?
Well, I just like to enhance game day. So
Sure.
having more people on the floor, more going on, just so, like, each time you see something, your eyes go to something different. So I want to have next time out, the dancers are going to be in the middle and the cheer's going to be in the back. I want to, like, change it up, but I also want the girls to have fun. So just trying to keep the variety there for them, the crowd, and then myself. I don't want to watch the same thing over and over.
Sure.
So.
Well, and not only that, but you mentioned that your specialty is dance. You've worked for a dance studio here in town before, and I know you used to cheer for the Wichita Thunder or dance for the Wichita Thunder. How much did you have to learn about cheer? Because it's not just there is a dancing element to it, but there's a lot of other stuff that doesn't really cross over. So how much did you kind of have to learn in order to kind of add that to your knowledge so that you can take that and teach the girls and try to come up with new routines and figure out why things go wrong? And then sometimes they do.
Well, with dance, it came naturally. Like,
of course.
Looking back, we do a lot of videotaping for both cheer and dance. So we'll tape technique and, like, oh, you need to point your foot. Or when it comes to stunts, like, okay, well, you're dropping your hands lower than the person next to you. Or if it's the flyers, like, letting their shoulders cave, like, okay, you need to pull your chest back. So taping is crucial. And so, like, we use Band app, and I'll put videos on, and they have to critique themselves. So we've done that for a while. They get to go back, and normally
Sure.
find something that you did well or find something that you need to improve on. And then sometimes complimenting a teammate. So we do a lot of, like, the team helps each other. So dance or cheer, I make them go out there and then flop. And so
Sure.
they have to put a performance on for their teammates.
Sure. Well, and what this idea now that you've gone competitive with the first ever competition for cheer and dance this year, going to Fort Hays State, when did that idea come about, and kind of what was your thought process? What was your involvement in that idea? Was was it your idea? Did it come from Joe? How did that come about, and how did you guys get to the decision? I know that it's something that you had talked about, kind of floated for a while, but this was the first year that you said, you know what, we're going to do this.
Well, I've wanted to do it for a few years, but you've got to have the right team.
Sure.
The year before COVID, I really thought that next year would have been, but then we couldn't do anything with COVID, and it made it very difficult.
Sure.
We had practices with just 8 girls, 9 girls, and so it was really difficult to get our chemistry and get everything. Chemistry between each other, but also dancing and cheering. So we weren't able to get going until December-ish with everyone. So that kind of put us back. So the last 2 years, we have really grown and been able to. And so we got an invite, I feel like January, and then I proposed it at the beginning of February to Joanne, and I was like, hey, I think this is something that we can do, that we're going to do well, and really help take and advance this program to the next level. And so kind of proposed it to the girls. This is what we're doing. I think you guys can rock it. Just kind of giving them the confidence that I know they need, but I know they have the skills to do it.
Well, and you go up there and you get first and third in the 2 disciplines, and I know that cheer was so close to maybe even winning the whole thing, and could have come away with 2 first place trophies. So how did that make you feel going up there and just the first time and not knowing until midway through the year that this was going to happen, and to see that level of success so early on has to be extremely rewarding and encouraging.
Yeah, the growth that they've had is awesome. And just the experience. I tell them, I'm like, this is athletics. You don't know, going into a game. I tell them, if you're a basketball player and you can shoot a free throw all day, but when can you do it when you have an audience? It was nice for them to see the adrenaline and what it takes to go out there and how it's so different from game day. But they did a really great job. I was so proud of them. When they were warming up, we had to change a few things last minute. And I almost got teary-eyed because I'm they are doing so great. We just changed this last stunt. And again, the chemistry, you don't know if it's going to hit.
Sure.
And then my dancers were awesome, hitting their technique and doing all the things and giving me energy. I'm excited to see what they can do in the future.
Well, and one of the leaders that's been a part of that is Grace Evans. You'll hear from her next, a senior cheerleader who is unfortunately departing the program, but has been a big member of the cheer squad through these 4 years. What has it been like to have Grace Evans as a part of your program?
It's been awesome. I've got to see her grow up.
Yeah.
And change and become a leader. On the team and then outside as an individual with her job and just growing up as a young lady. So it's been a pleasure.
So now that you guys are kind of in this competitive world, what does the future look like? Because, this year, obviously, there's one competition, but I know that there are, different programs around the country, and this is something that they go very heavily into, and they've got competitions all the time. And I know that there's, I'm not an expert. I would never claim to be an expert, but I have been in gyms, and they've got banners, and there are national championships that can be won in this sport, and obviously you guys are at the very, very, very genesis of this. Mm-hmm. So what do you think is the future if going into year 2 next year? I'm assuming based on the results that this is obviously something that you're going to continue next year. And then what does year 5 look like in this? Have you even been able to think that far ahead?
I'm not that far ahead.
Okay.
So I'm just planning.
That's okay.
Yeah, just planning for next year. I would like to do 1 or 2 more competitions.
Okay, so we're looking 3 to 4 in that range.
Maybe 2 to 3.
2 to 3.
Yeah,
okay.
Unless we can get some great fundraising.
Sure.
So but that would be the plan for next year. And ideally, we'll start learning choreography around winter break. So if that's before we leave or after, that way we have more time to clean and just elevate the routine to the best of our abilities.
So this is going to be something for you guys, and this is not that much different than tennis or golf. You guys will have kind of a split season where you will be, in basketball, obviously you guys will still be a basketball in the first semester, but then the second semester is going to be, you guys will kind of be a spring year sport.
Yeah, we'll
in terms of when the competition.
Yeah, because most of them will be early spring.
Yeah, which obviously I'm sure you guys will be working on this, year round. What does the athletic year look like for you guys? When students arrive on campus in August?
They come before school starts. So normally we come a week before school, like August 14th-ish.
When do you get your hands on them and get them?
That's when they come.
Okay.
They come before school starts. That way we can get everything kind of set. They can know each other since it's such a big team between both programs. I like them to all know each other.
Sure.
And it makes it nice when they start going to class that they know 30 other people on campus, at least.
You're not alone, obviously. Yeah,
right.
That's a very, very big part of the experience.
We start August, and then pretty much they'll get days off here and there, but then we go every day until winter break. And then I give them a decent chunk of winter break, and then they come back a little bit before school starts. Kind of depends on basketball schedule.
Sure, yeah, whether they're home or away. And, when you look at what it's going to take to continue to build this program up competitively, is this something that's going to be a deal where you would add more players or add more, a bigger cheer and dance, a bigger sections of each team? Is it something where you'll reduce members? Have you been able to think that far ahead in terms of what that's part of it's going to look like?
It'll be a little different. Haven't completely decided how it's going to go.
Sure.
Yeah, but it will be most likely a little bit bigger. We'll have some that will be just game day, and then we'll have some that will compete, and we'll have some that will do both.
Okay.
And it might kind of depend on the student. Like if they're in nursing, it might be harder for them to have
one or the other.
Yeah, what they're going to have on their plate, and each student is different. But
sure, and I'm sure that we'll, you say compete and game day. It doesn't mean that if you come to game day, you will see the competitive team is going to perform at game day some. They'll split the reps. So last question for you, like Bernie and I said, you guys have improved so much in the last decade to get to where you are now. How do you make the next jump? What's the steps in your mind as a coach? What are you thinking about? Well, these are the kind of players that I need, the kind of girls that I want. You've improved so much, but I'm sure to get to where you want to be in the competitive sphere, you probably need to take a couple more steps up in that level. What in your mind, what does that look like?
Well, having a bigger coaching staff is going to help. Paige was on the team last year, and she's came back, and she's helped tremendously this last year. So she cheered and danced, so we and her can bounce. We'll switch, so it's nice. They get a change of, instead of just me, they get to have her, and we can do both sides. So it doesn't matter, and we'll jump, because obviously we're a little different.
Sure.
And just bouncing our personalities and trying, especially when it's early, they practice at 6 a.m., trying to, give them that little push, like, yes, you can do it. It's morning, but, like, this is what we're here to do. Like, get the job done.
Yes. So she's going to be sticking with you as assistant coach? Okay.
Yes.
So there'll be a coach and an assistant. Any other coaches or figure that out yet?
Maybe we have a few graduating that are looking to come back and help, and then we'll see if we can
get a couple of GAs on staff?
Get some outside.
Sure.
And maybe not, like, full-time, just, like, coming in and, like, especially when it's dancing or stunting, like having more eyes on what's going on always helps. Because for dancers, I watch their upper body. Like, are they slouching? Or, like, are they lifting it up? Are they stretching through their feet? Cheer, you have your flyer, you have your bases, and you have your back. Like, I pay attention to the flyers because I want to make sure they're not going to go down. Paige watches the bases, and so we kind of all do our part, and it helps.
Well, it's been a remarkable start to the kind of competitive atmosphere as you've become kind of a competitive coach now. So that's really excited to see where you take this program. Brandy Muncy, the cheer and dance coach for Newman University. The Jets taking home hardware in their first ever competitive event at Fort Hays State last month. Congratulations again, Coach. Thank you so much for the time. Grace Evans will join us next year, a senior from the team. She's next on the Jetcast.
Where can you land the best Jet swag? The official online store of Newman University Athletics, NUJetsgear.com. Store features the greatest variety of Jets logo gear anywhere, from latest clothing styles and hats to Newman branded lawn chairs and office supplies and more. NUJetsgear.com is your place to purchase sports-specific, alumni, parents, and hard-to-find Newman merchandise. Shop right now on your computer or phone, NUJetsgear.com, or click the Shop Now button at NewmanJets.com.
Back here on the Jetcast, talking cheer and dance today. The cheer and dance team coming off of their first competitive performance this year. Joining us is a senior who will be departing the team, but obviously a real big part of trying to build this program up. Grace Evans, a senior from Bel Air, Kansas, right here in Sedgwick County, a former Circle High School Thunderbird who is a senior member of this Spirit Squad for Newman. Grace, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Well, the season for you guys in totality, it's got a, obviously a little bit different view for you since you're kind of looking at it through the rear view mirror at this point,
yes.
Which I'm sure feels a little bit different to think about and kind of say now that we're, coming up to the end of the calendar year. But how do you think the season went for you and the ladies?
I think it went really well, actually. We started in August and just hit the ground running, and then it's kind of crazy to have us competing and everything like that. We had tried to in a previous year, and we just weren't able to. And this year it was awesome that we actually got to compete and bring home some trophies for you guys.
When did you figure out, or when did Coach Muncy kind of float this idea to you guys, like, hey, this is what you've been doing, and you guys are so active in the community,
yes.
going out to different events. I've seen you at the Girls on the Run, at the park, and you guys are at a lot of the stuff. Basically, any time that, like, Douglas is closed in downtown Wichita,
you'll see us there.
They're probably there. But, when did this get floated from Coach, like, hey, this is something we're thinking about. This is something we're going to try. We're going to do this competitive thing. And what was your reception to it?
So we got told just a little bit before, I believe, the homecoming game, and we were working on our performance for that. And she was like, hey, like, I know in previous years we said we were going to compete, but we're actually going to do it this year. Like, we're going to compete, and we're going to go to the Fort Hays Invitational, and we're just going to give it our all. So we actually had about a month to prepare. So we went from switching from our homecoming performance straight into our invitational performance for the competition.
So how did that, when you guys made the decision that you were going to, when you figured out that you were going to do that, how did that change your training regimen? How did you go about, kind of transitioning from, okay, this is what we do and this is how we get ready for game day? Because you guys practice for game day. It's not like they don't just show up and dance on and cheer on game day. That's not how it works.
Yes.
But you guys are working on what you're going to do on game day. How did you kind of transition into, okay, well, this is how we prepare for a competitive performance?
So transitioning into that, we kind of just break it down within our practice, and of course, we start with like stretching and our warm-ups and running and everything like that. And then we split into cheer and dance, and then Coach Brandy and then Coach Paige usually switch in between the two of us. And we just broke it down into what stunts we were going to do, choreography, and then jumps and other things, of course. And we just broke that down and then added it all together. And we actually had about 2 weeks to get ready for our invitational. So we fit all of our routine in our practices within 2 weeks with spring break off.
Did that feel like a cram session, like for a test maybe? That seemed, I don't know. Coach Muncy is off camera nodding, yes, it did. Because that feels like a lot. It almost feels like, maybe for audience who isn't, there's probably not a ton of people in our audience. Probably is this week since you're cheer and dance, and that's what's the focus of the program. But I'm guessing for most of our viewers, listeners, this would kind of be like, Coach Drew putting in a whole new offense in 2 weeks and say, well, okay, now you need to go win a game with this offense that you've never run before. But that's kind of what you guys do, because you guys do have to put in new routines. You guys do new stuff for halftime, and are you used to doing that, to putting in something completely different?
Usually when we get ready for like homecoming, we usually have about like a month or maybe a month and a half. 2 weeks, it was definitely like a little bit of a cram sesh.
Sure.
It wasn't too bad though. We were super focused, and we just took everything that Coach said to us, and like we're able to get it in and put it all together, and it looked amazing. With doing that, there's different complications that happen. Things happen.
Of course.
And people get sick or people get injured, different things like that. It's kind of hard as a stunt group to switch people in and out.
Sure.
Because you've got flyers, and then they work with different bases, and then sometimes there really is like a chemistry to it all. Coach calls it a cheer sense, and it sounds made up, but it really is a thing.
Sure.
Where you just like click with one another, and you know, okay, well, this is why this stunt didn't hit, that we need to fix this. Like, it happens, and you mesh together. But like if one person's gone, say a base is gone, we have to figure out, okay, are they the same height? Do they have that cheer sense together? Are like raising their hands up, is that the same height? Like, it's not just how tall you are. Like, your arms could be longer than how tall you are. So it's like, okay, how are we going to fit all of this in and like fix it? And then we've always been able to do that pretty well. Like, things happen, so you switch in and out, and everybody tries to be as universal as we can. So
and you guys, you being on the cheer side, you know, people probably, again, if they're in this world, then they know, but
yes.
you know, you guys have different positions.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like being on a football team, except you know, you guys are trying to, you know, look good in the air instead of trying to score points, but everybody's got a position and a job to do. What's your position been on this team?
My position has been a back spot, so I'm responsible basically to make sure the flyer lives at this point.
Sure.
They call it the lifeguard spot.
Okay.
So like if the stunt falls, they're going to fall on me, and I have to catch them, make sure that they don't fall out of the stunt. But I'm responsible for making sure that they get up in the air and they stay there. My bases are doing most of the work for the most part, but we have to bring a little bit of the weight off of the bases with pulling up on the flyer's ankles and different things like that.
And it's a little bit different, obviously, because you know, when you look at the way that some universities have it set up, you know, for a lot of times, you know, you will go to a football game and you'll see, you know, these huge, massive guys that are getting the girls up, and you know, not every college has that. Obviously, you guys are predominantly have been, you know, female. So how does that kind of change? And have you ever been on a cheer squad that was co-ed?
Yes. So we actually had a guy a couple years ago, Kramer, and
coincidentally enough, pretty big guy. As
yes,
it turns out.
yes. Kramer was definitely able to help us a lot with throwing up different stunts. But it's just one of those things where you have to make sure that you're all doing your part and putting in the work and training and lifting those weights so that you are able to lift those people. It's
so you
different.
are one of the players. You'll be in this very short window of time of being one of the players in one of the sports that experienced before coronavirus, during coronavirus, and after coronavirus. How was that transition going in? And you know, you're coming in as, I'm sure, a bright-eyed freshman thinking, wow, we're here, and college athletics isn't this fun. And then obviously in March of 2020, that second year, your sophomore year, looked a lot different for you, I'm sure.
It did.
And then the junior year was kind of a transitionary phase, and now this senior year, it feels like we're more back to normal. What was that like? You kind of had 4 very, very different years of college.
It was very different. Freshman year wasn't really like a walk in the park, but it was like, okay, like I know what's expected of me.
Sure.
Like, here we go. We're on the gym floor. We're doing our thing. And then sophomore year, we were like, okay, well, are we allowed on the floor? Are we not allowed on the floor? Okay, we're on the track. Okay, cool. Can we stunt on the track? Yep, we can stunt on the track, but let's not do anything too crazy because we don't want to fall over.
There's not a lot of real estate.
Yeah, and then we were able to be on the floor for routines, so that was nice. But it was different being up on the track and like having to be louder than normal because you have to project your voice more so that everybody can hear you.
Sure.
Like the people behind you can hear you, but you're not on both sides of the gym where it's like a roundhouse basically.
Well, and how did that, you know, kind of affect you guys because there were, at some different points, there were restrictions on the number of people that can practice, the number of people that can practice at a certain time, and obviously if one person, you know, comes down with the sniffles, then, well, we need to make sure that everybody else, and I mean, I think that you guys have to get tested on a somewhat basis. It was the same with every sport. So if you weren't vaccinated, then you had to be tested. Sure.
I believe it was either weekly or biweekly.
So how much more difficult was it? You know, because I know that, you know, Coach Muncy, just from us talking, had said, you know, normally you guys do team building activities and get to know you and, you know, icebreaker, all that you know, stuff. 2020, that's not really a thing that you were able to do.
No,
How did you come together as a team?
We weren't. So that first week that we had practice, we were actually in small groups that I remember, and we got to know like our small group, but we didn't get to know everybody else very well. So it wasn't until I think almost like Christmas time that we got to know everybody, and everybody knew each other on the team and like knew who had what classes and what was everybody's major. But during that time we had masks on too, so it was hard to differentiate from everybody, just like seeing your eyes, you know. But overall, like I wouldn't trade that experience for anything else. Like it was an experience, and I lived through it, and it happened. But
what's the experience been like being coached by Coach Muncy over there?
It's been great. I've been very thankful for the opportunity. I actually started talking to Coach Muncy when I was a junior in high school and was interested in coming into Newman, and then she came and watched me a couple times, and then sent me the information and my acceptance with the scholarship, and I was very grateful for that opportunity, and I've loved it ever since.
And then you go up to the competition, Fort Hays State, first place trophy, third place trophy.
Yes.
How rewarding and satisfying was that to have both halves of the team bring home a piece of hardware?
It was great, actually. It was very rewarding, and like it was like, okay, all of our hard work paid off from the whole entire season. Actually, with getting that third place trophy, we found out that we were actually half a point away from beating Fort Hays at their own invitational.
Wow.
And receiving second place. So
in the first event that Newman's ever done.
Yes. Yeah, we almost brought home second place.
Wow.
I have no doubt in my mind that the girls can do it next year. They're going to do great. So.
Well, I know that you have been studying healthcare science and psychology. What do you, since you're graduating, what's the future plans look like for Grace Evans?
So I actually am already a Newman alum. I graduated last May and got my degree in occupational therapy.
So you really are a graduate.
Yes, yes. So I have a degree in occupational therapy, and I'm an assistant for Derby Public Schools right now, working that and still going to school.
Sure.
And so healthcare science, you have to concentrate in something, and I picked psychology and sociology, and I was like, you know what? It's only one more semester. I'll just get the double bachelor's.
Sure.
So I got that in psychology, and then the next step is grad school to become an occupational therapist. So we're getting there.
Even more studying coming up for you.
Yes, more studying for me.
Well, we certainly wish you the best. I'll give you kind of the last thing. If there was a prospective athlete out there who was thinking, maybe this is something that I'd like to do, because it's not easy, especially when you're in, people know nursing, healthcare sciences. I mean, even if you're just coming here to study, I don't know what the easiest major at Newman is. I have no idea. But when you're a student athlete, there's a lot of demands on your time.
There is
between studying and your athletic events, the preparation to be at the athletic events, and then obviously you just want to have fun, enjoying the college experience too. So what would you tell a young lady out there who might say, maybe I can be a part of that championship winning team for Newman here in the future? Newman's
a great place. Like, I had toured other schools, and I came here and just fell in love with the atmosphere. It was great. But it's worth it coming here. Your professors are great. They're super flexible. Coach always says you're a student and then an athlete. Mm-hmm. So there's that too. She's very good with like keeping us on track and knowing, okay, hey, great job on this. Or like, I was always that team member that I was like, hey, I didn't do too hot on this test, but I'm like, my grade's going to come up, like I promise. And she's like, I'm not worried about you. And all those things. But I was one that did athletics and school, and then I actually worked 2 jobs. So a full plate, but you can do it. It's possible, and Newman's a great atmosphere to be in to do that.
Well, a fantastic career for you, obviously. And, we talked about with Coach before you came on. I mean, the amount of improvement, because I've been here for a while.
Yes.
The amount of improvement on your teams has been staggering in the time that I've been here under her direction. And you've definitely been a part of that. So thank you so much for your service, and best of luck with even more studying coming up next year.
Thank you. I appreciate it.